Hey everybody, this is Matt from endsickness.org. Today I'm going to talk about how you got to seek stillness over stimulation while you're healing. You can't constantly be stimulating your brain, doing all these stimulating activities and try to heal from a chronic illness because, as I'll explain, a lot of this has to do with an overactivation of the limbic system, which keeps the stress in fight or flight response going, which perpetuates these symptoms. So first, let me talk about my experiences here. But before that, let me say I'm not a medical doctor. It's not medical advice. This is for informational and educational purposes only. So back to my experiences. When I was healing from chronic illness and I was starting to get better and I was starting to get some relief, as soon as I would start to get some relief, I would seek stimulation. I'd go exercise. I'd go eat, these foods for immediate gratification. I would, go stay out late. I would go party. I'd do whatever. I would constantly seek happiness in stimulation instead of relaxing activities. And what would happen is I would use my energy up that I had accumulated from healing and use it on these stimulating activities and drain my body and overactivate my neurological system, my nervous system. And it would create this cycle of illness and symptoms that would keep popping up. Just when I got better, I'd use the energy, I'd burn out, or I'd get tired from what I did, and then I'd pay the price, and then I would just repeat. I would be burned out, I'd gain up the energy and make the same decisions all over again. I eventually started to realize that I needed some limbic system retraining. I needed to actually go ahead and try to change the way I was thinking, change my behaviors, change the way I approach things. It was no more about trying to find immediate gratification in things, seeking stimulation in everything, overdoing everything, being in this adrenaline state all the time. It was more about going ahead and seeking relaxation, seeking calming activities, finding things that would slow me down, not speed me up and get me excited and full of adrenaline. So I started to realize I had to prefer relaxation. If I really wanted to get better, I had to prefer relaxation over stimulation. And that was a very difficult concept for me to be able to understand. I was always into being able to, feed off that adrenaline response or that aggressive energy. That was my thing. I would just push through everything, and eventually it burned me out, led me to be sick. So I realized I had to start preferring relaxing activities, things like reading books, going for walks, going out in nature, watching some TV, watching a good movie, deep breathing, etc. So the thing that helped me the most was deep breathing and meditation. Okay, and I'm slow deep breathing through the nose, in and out, with my eyes closed, with healing frequencies on. These things made a massive difference, absolutely massive difference in terms of my ability to calm down and appreciate the moment and actually prefer things that are relaxing versus these and one stimulation after another. The slow deep breathing is very simple. It's just breathing in and out through your nose as slow as you can with your eyes closed, putting on a healing frequency. You can look up 432 hertz on YouTube and you could find a lot of good healing frequencies. But the idea is just simply breathing all the way in, holding for a couple seconds, breathing all the way out until there's no breath left, repeating, doing that for a period of 20 to 25 minutes straight, being consistent with it once, twice a day, ideally twice a day, morning and evening, when you wake up and when you go to bed. That's the best times. So deep breathing was a major, major game changer to me. It was much more beneficial in meditation. When I got into the deep breathing, eventually it would turn into a meditation. I just combined that with the healing frequencies and it was a game changer. Relaxing activities, I talk about some of those. Being out in nature, sitting down and having a conversation with someone that's important to you, reading the paper, anything, going to the beach, things that don't require a whole lot of physical energy, some beating, increase of the heart rate, stress on the body, repair for the muscles, the body, etc. These things are all critical. You got to find more and more of these relaxing activities because these are going to be the things that will help to really calm you down in your day and keep you away from the stimulation that's going to put you back into fight or flight and get your limbic system reactivated again. So being careful with stimulation, okay? Got to understand that when you have gone through a chronic illness, the reality is your body has been hyperstimulated over and over again. Your immune system has been hyperstimulated. It's from what we've been eating, what we've been inhaling, all these stressful events, the imbalance in the gut microbiome, the nutrient deficiencies. All these things have kept the body in a state where it is very vulnerable to excessive stimulation or any stimulation. So you got to be very careful with stimulation. If you're up too late till 2 in the morning, it'll wipe you out. If you're running for that extra mile just when you feel like you got to push through it. If you're eating too much spicy food, whatever it is, these things that stimulate your body and your immune system, that is what you want to be very careful with. That's why it's important to be able to slow things down as often as possible, simplify, take on the concept that less is more, be able to really embrace that mindfulness, that awareness, that simplicity, you know? So breath and emotional awareness, breath awareness. If you're starting to feel stressed, you're starting to feel like, you know, you want to go out and, you know, play basketball for 2.5 hours and until your body's drained, you know, you want to do something like that, then you got to be aware of your breath. You just got to slow down in the moment and slow your breath down. Got to slow it down. Breathe out, you know. You got to realize your emotional, when you have emotional shifts, you got to go back to the breath. You don't want to just distract yourself with more stimulation, going back after the next activity that's going to stimulate you to distract yourself from the emotional conflict going on. You want to be able to address emotional conflict and be able to calm down with your breath, the awareness of your breath, and recenter. So the stimulation trap, don't get caught in the stimulation trap. Yeah, it feels good to get a little bit of stress, a little bit of stress, but eventually that wears the body down, especially when you have a chronic illness. You don't want to keep going after the next stimulation, the next instant gratification. What you want is delayed gratification, and you want relaxation. Those are things that are going to help you heal. So to summarize, stillness over stimulation when you're healing is absolutely paramount, and you don't want to keep going ahead and stimulating your body. You're really picking the scab of your immune system. Your immune system needs to heal. It has to be trusting that you're not going to overstress your body and stimulate it past the point of no return, you know. So thanks for watching, everybody. This has been something that has been really, really helpful for me to embrace, and hopefully it will be for you as well. Take care.